After the period of mourning was over, the wedding was postponed and then postponed again to give Peter, now in Rome, time to complete his studies and get ordained. They were determined that one of his first priestly duties would be to marry them. These were the days when patience was still considered a virtue, and the come we stay and see whether we like it kind of marriage had not been invented. Whether Christian or traditional, a girl left home for her husband's on a given date and was considered married henceforth and not a day before. Eventually, Peter returned and was ordained as a priest, a Mill Hill father. As he lay prostrate on the ground before his bishop, he thought of how he had longed for this day to come, of how much his grandmother would have loved to see him in his priestly robes, of the father he had never really known and the mother who, for all intents and purposes, had forgotten his existence, though that old scar no longer rankled as it had once done in his youth. Others, looking at him, thought, what sacrifice, what courage. He felt only fortunate that God should call even one such as him. What could he have done to deserve it? There were few priests, and the parish to which he was sent was very large and the work exhausting. He had to celebrate Mass in various far-flung places, attend to the sick and the dying, listen to confessions, administer baptisms, and generally make himself available to any troubled soul, whatever the hour. But he was a happy man and became beloved of the people as his stocky figure in its familiar black cassock went in and out among them. It is possible that with time a priest may take his calling for granted, treating his work as just another job. Not so with Father Peter. This was especially obvious whenever he celebrated Mass, particularly at the moment of consecration. His normally smiling face would be drawn with concentration, and his gestures would assume a fluid grace as he lifted the circular host and declared, "This is my body which will be given up for you." He did not just say it, he lived it, and he will continue to live it for the rest of his long life. As soon as he settled down a little, he went back to the Allure parish in order to marry Elizabeth and Mark. The wedding was simple, but the place was packed to the brim. The bride was dressed in a simple white poplin dress with the tiniest of lace trimming. She had on a simple veil and white shoes. This time, she had splurged on leather. After all, how many times in her life does a girl wed? In spite of the austerity, she was as radiant a bride as any that had ever walked up the aisle to begin a marriage that would last 46 years. Maybe if she stopped to consider the sheer length of time that marriage might last, she might have faltered. After all, to wake up and see the same face 365 times for 46 years was not a joke. But the church taught that she would receive actual graces to enable her to continue loving this one man and to withstand whatever vicissitudes might come their way. She chose to believe this with unshakable faith. And so Mark said, "I, Mark Sigu, do take you, Elizabeth, to be my lawful wedded wife, to have and to hold, to love and to cherish, in sickness and in health, till death do us part." And likewise Elizabeth. Then Father Peter declared them man and wife. The crowd clapped quite spontaneously. They had come to accept her with time as part of themselves and were quite proud of her, though they were sad that a man from the rocky wasteland of Seme would have carried her right from their noses. Mark took his bride off to Nakuru with him, and they started their married life in his modest bachelor pad, which consisted of one room, a kitchenette and shared bathroom facilities. But they did not mind at all. It was home and they were happy. He was promoted to the front office of the Farmers Association he worked for, and she started teaching at a nearby primary school. One morning, she woke up with a fearful attack of nausea and dizziness. She dashed out and threw up helplessly in the toilet. Mark came after her in alarm. What is it? I don't know, she gasped. I'd better take you to the dispensary. He hurriedly made breakfast as she rested in a chair. After a cup of tea, she felt better. So much better that she assured him that everything was okay. Since it was school holiday time, she thought a little rest at home might do the trick. So she sent him off to work. That evening, he brought her some anti-malarial tablets, which she obligingly swallowed. The following morning was chaos. Not only was she throwing up, but she had also fearful abdominal cramps. He called a neighbor and they rushed her to hospital. She was admitted immediately in a state of shock and dehydration. Not only had she vomited out everything, but she had also started hemorrhaging violently. After hearing the story and examining her, the doctor was furious. He started calling them all manner of names in his cant Swahili until Mark stiffly informed him that he could understand English, and would the man care to explain himself in a more understandable way? The doctor was Italian, but his English was an improvement on his Swahili. Evidently, what he had experienced the day before was a normal symptom of pregnancy, but giving her antimalarials was criminal, for they were known to cause abortion in early pregnancy, which is what was happening to her. Was she trying to kill his wife? If Mark had been less stricken, he would have flattened the man with one blow, white man or no white man, but he had no energy even to continue standing, so he sat down on a bench in a state of shocked disbelief. They discharged Elizabeth after 5 days. She lost the pregnancy on the second day of her admission, but had stayed on for observation for further evidence of chloroquine poisoning. She had none. Mark dared not to look at her. He felt so guilty, but surprisingly, she wasn't angry with him. How could you have known? If even I didn't know? Don't worry, God will give us another. She did not even bother telling him that they had been twins. The poor man had suffered enough. Such an experience is, however, very hard to shake off, and now they were consciously trying to get another baby, and as sometimes happens in such cases, nothing happened. She remained confoundingly slim for the remainder of that year and the next. It was too much. She forgot her earlier good intentions and one day actually accused him of having deliberately given her chloroquine to make her sterile. He was so angry that he stood up and lifted his hand as if to strike her. He was actually foaming at the mouth. Then he turned on his heels and left the house. She tried to keep up her anger. After all, she had been the wronged one. But when he had not come by late that night and on the following day, her anger turned to alarm and raw fear. Where could he be? Had he been in an accident? Had he committed suicide? Had he left her? If he had, she had only herself to blame. But that evening, he came home smelling like a brewery. He offered no explanation, and she asked none. However, family life continued somewhat uneasily, for they were both still too young to give way to each other. When the third year of marriage came and went with no visible offspring to show for it, Mark's mother arrived to demand an explanation. A woman with an education was an object of suspicion. Who knows what she had been up to before her marriage? To Mark's credit, he told her in no uncertain terms whose business she was not allowed to mind. But she's only a wife, and I'm your mother. Yes, she's my wife, but you will soon be a stranger if you don't leave us alone. I'll put you on the bus this evening. You should go back and look after your husband. The old woman was beside herself with fury, but Mark had the determination of a mule, so she went. This incident went a long way to thaw things out between them, and before long, Elizabeth started having attacks of nausea again. This development was greeted with such enthusiasm by the two hopeful parents that they could barely blurt it out to the doctor, who agreed she was pregnant. They went home walking on air. It will be a boy, and he'll be a soldier like his father, explained Mark. Nonsense. She will be a girl, and I will call her Veronica after my grandmother. I will make sure that she gets a really good education, and I will send her to the university at Makerere, said Elizabeth sweetly. Ah, okay, whatever you say. He was too happy to quarrel. A child? That's all he wanted, and he would work his boots off if need be to provide for them. It was time he went for some in-service training to improve his chances of promotion.